Hi everyone, once again this is grade 4 Qatar history and we'll be continuing with lesson 2, ancient civilizations in the Arabian Gulf and the ancient history of Qatar. So let's begin with our objectives. First, we'll recall the contributions of the ancient civilizations in the Arabian Gulf. Second is we'll describe the ancient history of Qatar in terms of its location, the monuments found within the area during the historic times, and first settlements or the first people who lived in Qatar. And last, we will enumerate the ancient manifestations or the proofs of civilization in Qatar. So let's recall the locations of the ancient civilizations in the Arabian Gulf. So if you would recall, in the last lesson, we've discussed about the Majan civilization as well as their contributions, the Annar civilization, and towards the north, we have the Delmen, the Gara'a, and the Failaka civilizations. So we will be reviewing what the contributions and the features of these ancient civilizations were and how they have influenced the history of the Arabian Gulf and also the history of Qatar. So first, let's review about the Majan civilization. So this civilization emerged in the region extending across Oman and the United Arab Emirates. So they had great abundance of copper, which they used for making tools and jewelries like the ones that you see in the picture. These are samples of copper movable monuments of the Majan civilization, which they have excavated. And also before, it was the center of economic activity or the center of trade. Next, we have the Annar civilization, which emerged or appeared near the city of Abu Dhabi. So its population relied on fishing as a primary source of food. This is important to mention because the Annar civilization has influenced Qatar and the way that the Qatari people before relied on fishing also as primary source of food. And the most important characteristic of the civilization is the architecture, which involves building round-shaped cemeteries like the ones that you see over here in the pictures. Next, we go to Delman civilization. So this civilization emerged on the land of Bahrain, in addition to other areas on the eastern coast of the Arabian Peninsula. Now, it's very important because it was characterized by economic activity, so it was also one of the centers of trade before, where ancient people used to do business. And also, there's an interest among its citizens in terms of building cities surrounded by walls near sea coasts. One example would be this Barbar Temple. It's a stable monument built by people of the Delman civilization. It's important to mention that they have built walled cities because it's an indication that they plan to settle in that area and also they plan to protect themselves from any enemies or invaders. Next, we go to the Failaka civilization. So it's located in the northwest corner of the Arabian Gulf, facing the coasts of Kuwait. So like the Delman civilization, it was also characterized by economic activity, especially trade activity or the exchange of goods and services. So it's also notable because it was affected by the neighboring or the nearby urban civilizations, which had made it more modernized. So one manifestation of the Failaka civilization, as you can see here in the picture, would be the Icarus stone, which they have found in the Failaka island. So if you would notice, the architecture is more intricate. It has designs to it, and it's more advanced compared to the architecture of the Delman civilization. Last is the Gara'a civilization. So this civilization appeared in the eastern region of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and also it was gifted with a distinct trade location. So its location was very much unique for its economic purposes. It was also an agricultural civilization, meaning the citizens relied on farming, but at the same time, they also adopted different types of industries. It's important to note that the Gara'a civilization was an agricultural civilization because we know that for most civilizations choosing to settle close to bodies of water like rivers and other freshwater sources, they need water source for their crops and their domestic animals to thrive, and also for the people to survive without having to move around from one location to the next. Now we proceed to the ancient history of Qatar. The previous civilizations we have talked about influenced the history of Arabian Gulf as a whole. So we will now focus and narrow down on the ancient history of Qatar itself. So what are the points that we have to remember? First, the location of the Qatari Peninsula in the middle of the west coast of the Arabian Gulf played a significant or important role in connecting or linking civilizational areas in the Arabian Gulf region. So Qatar served as a link of different civilizations around it. So it's important because, of course, interaction and trade happened because of Qatar's distinct location. Second point, monuments found in different areas of the country indicated that Qatar has been inhabited since the 4th millennium BC. So people started living in Qatar as early as 4th millennium BC. And also there were some sources in the previous lesson telling us that as early as in the Paleolithic era, people have started living in Qatar. So third, the Greek historian Herodotus, who is also known as the father of history and who wrote many historical books, pointed out that Canaanites were the first to settle in Qatar and were famous because of their trade and maritime navigation. So trade, again, it's exchange of goods and services, if you must know. And maritime navigation talks about the gift of the early settlers in Qatar in terms of navigating the seas or traveling through the seas. So modern day Canaanites or modern day Canaan would be composed of Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. So, as proven by history and also as told to us by Herodotus, the Canaanites were the first to live in Qatar in its ancient history. Next, we go to ancient manifestations of civilizations in Qatar. So, what are the proofs or the evidence that civilizations have existed in Qatar during its ancient history? So, first, there's proof that the population of Qatar worked in manufacturing stone tools used in crafts of fishing and hunting in ancient times. So if you would recall, we can attribute stone tools to the Paleolithic and the Neolithic eras, which are part of the prehistoric eras that we have studied in Lesson 1. So these are some of the tools used by people who lived in Qatar in ancient times. It's important to note the differences. So at first, during the Paleolithic era, they have used blunt stone tools for hunting and fishing, but they have improved these tools and they have honed or whetted these tools to include sharp edges so they can hunt and fish in a more efficient manner. Next, there's also proof that the Qatari Peninsula played the role of a mercantile mediator among other countries, which led to its trade prosperity. So what do we mean by mercantile mediator? So mediator means the go-between or the negotiator in terms of trade and business during the ancient times. So Qatar was in the middle of trade relations among different countries, which is why it has prospered or it has grown wealthier because of trade. Last point, ancient populations of Qatar were also very good at or excelled at weaving garments. There's the alborod type, or this is a type of clothing. You have cloaks also, which were known as the Qatari borod, the picture of which is right. So this was how ancient people in Qatar started weaving garments. So let's remember the following points. First, that a number of civilizations emerged in the Arabian Gulf region in ancient times, and the most notable were the Majlan, Anna, Delman, Failaka, and Garaa civilizations. Second, that Qatar played an important role in connecting civilizational areas in the Arabian Gulf because of its trade location. which was in the middle of the west coast of the Arabian Gulf. Third, monuments before indicated that Qatar has been inhabited since the 4th millennium BC. Fourth, that the historian Herodotus pointed out that the Canaanites were the first to live in Qatar and that they were famous for trade and navigation. Fifth, there's also proof that the population of Qatar worked in manufacturing stone tools, which they used for fishing and hunting. And last, the population of Qatar manufactured al-Borod clothing, weapons, and arrowheads. So I hope you've all learned a lot from our lesson, and I'll see you in the next video.